Welcome to the Father on Purpose podcast, featuring author and ministry leader Kent Evans and business executive and military veteran Lawson Brown. This is a show for you, Dad. You want to be a godly and intentional father. Unfortunately, you've turned to these two knuckleheads for help. Let us know how that works out for you. Before we begin, remember this: you are not a father on accident. So go be a father on purpose. Please welcome your hosts, Kent and Lawson.
Hey Dad, Kent here with a short message about the Lessons in Lyrics series. This episode is the second of 3, and in it, we discuss Need to Breathe's song, The Heat. Have you ever played on a team and made an error? You tap your chest and look at your teammates saying, "My bad." Well, this is me doing that for you. When we built this series, we thought we could include snippets from the actual songs in the episodes. I was wrong. My bad. The streaming platforms quickly corrected us, and we needed to rework the content. Because we'd already received enthusiastic feedback on these shows from dads, that is, before the friendly legal team at Spotify reached out, we decided to edit them and keep most of the original content. You'll hear this sound each time we had planned on playing a section of the song, plus we put a link to the song in the show notes. Trust me, this will all make sense when you hear it. Again, my bad. Hope you enjoy this Lessons in Lyrics series. You might want to press pause now and go listen to The Heat by Need to Breathe. We'll see you back here in a few minutes and dive into Lawson's treasure trove of wisdom. Today, Lawson, we are in part 2 of a short series we're experimenting with. By the way, Dad, if you love this series, you got to let us know, or we're never going to do it again, ever. Like, if we don't get 100 emails from people going, "That's the best podcast series ever," we will never come back to this topic. Called Lessons in Lyrics. The idea is both me and Lawson, and probably most people listening, really enjoy music of some kind. Now, you may not be like a concert chaser like Lawson is, where he travels literally as the entourage for 21 Pilots and catches them in whatever city they happen to be in.
It ain't quite that bad.
Not quite that bad, but I've been to 4 or 5 shows in the last few months. We went to shows back to back at Christmas time, like one on a Tuesday, one on a Wednesday. So I love live music. I love music. One of the bands that I've seen only once, even though I had ticketed to see them twice, and then I had to go out of town. So I gave my ticket to my niece. Is the band called Need to Breathe. Mm-hmm. And I love their music. And, some bands, like 10% of their music I really like. Need to Breathe is probably in the 80 or 90% range. Like almost every song they've ever released, I have really enjoyed. And one song in particular that I'd love to talk about today is called The Heat. But before we dive into all that, we're in the middle of this series where we're trying to draw lessons out of the lyrics in some music. For a few reasons. One, make you a good discerning listener of lyrics in music. Second, maybe some of these songs are songs you could play for your family on a road trip or around your house, and you could use the excuse of what's in the song to create a conversation around these topics. Or third, maybe you could just attract your kids to good music so that over time they find some bands that have some relatively, meaningful and wholesome content and don't just fill their ears with a bunch of nonsense like I did in the 80s. Speaking of something that's not at all nonsense, which that doesn't even make any sense, that transition, but today, Lawson, once again, I was reminded of how much better my life is because of you. I swam today at the YMCA again. This might be my 10th swim with the goggles that you graciously gave me around Christmas time. These are like form-fit goggles where you scan your face, and then the edges of the rubber gaskets are custom fit to your eye sockets. Oh my goodness, you have ruined me with normal goggles forever. Good. Because these are fantastic. So thank you for that. And you know what that has to do with today's show? Absolutely nothing. Other than you're a really nice guy, and I appreciate my goggles. Thanks. How you feeling, man? You ready to dive into song number 2?
Yeah, you bet. I really, really love this song. I like the lyrics. This guy's voice is great. The beat was just really good. It was just a great song all around. Yeah, let's get into it.
let's dive in. I'm going to let you listen to the first little bit of the song, and then we're going to cut in because the lyrics in this song for me are like a very deep dive on like a ton of things. So let's just start with a few bars, and then we'll come back in and talk about them. So several things are touched on in just the first 8 lines of this song. You may have heard lead singer Bear Reinhardt say, "The hurry's going to bring you to your knees. I know this much is true." I just read a book by Mark Comer where the title was an old Dallas Willard quote that he gave to John Ortberg when John Ortberg was taking over a church. He said to Dallas, "What do I need to know? What do I need to do to be an effective leader of this size of an organization?" And Dallas told him, "You have to ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life." And that quote has kind of been ringing in people's ears now for, 20 or 30 years, ever since John Ortberg first mentioned it. And then recently, John Mark Comer came out with a book called that, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, and he has some ideas and strategies. But the very first couple lines, "The hurry's going to bring you to your knees. I know this much is true." Today, after I finished my swim, actually my swim does somewhat tie to today's episode, I needed to get back to in my basement studio where we record this podcast. And I only had like 20 minutes, and the Y is about 10, 12 minutes away. So I was in a hurry, and I came out of the locker room at the Y with my bag in one hand, my vest jacket in the other, and then also piled into my hand was my iPhone, and then also piled in was the actual outer shirt. So I came out in my t-shirt and literally finished dressing myself as I walked out of the pool and walked out of the lobby of the Y, like putting on my shirt, putting on my vest, because I was in a hurry. And I spend an inordinate amount of my life, Lawson, in a hurry. I don't know about you.
That's exactly what when I first heard you kind of have to, I did. I listened to the song, I hadn't heard it in a while, listened to the song one time through, and then went back when I was not driving and pulled up the lyrics in Spotify to go along with it. And that made a difference to me. I mean, I love this guy's voice. I love the way he sings, but you got to really pay attention to get the lyrics right. Yeah. And so it helps to see them. The hurry's going to bring you to your knees. I know this much is true. Your eyes are going to rob you of your thunder, show you everything. Wow. So your eyes are going to rob you.
And your eyes are going to rob you of your thunder, show you everything but you.
Everything but you.
Super interesting.
You can get a lot from that. Like there's all kind of ways you can go with this. What I think that's the beauty of really good lyrics is, what does it mean to you may be a little bit different than what it means to someone else, depending on what they've got going on in their life. But for sure, that hurry, that busyness of life is something that it can bring you to your knees, like you give up. It's Friday, end of day, and you just crawl across the finish line of the week. Yeah. That's one thing where it's brought you to your knees. The hurry, the busyness, the doing, going, never stop, never take a breath. That's one way of thinking about bringing you to your knees, but it can also mean you relinquish control. You let go, like you give up, like you give it over to God, and you're done. Now you're on your knees, surrendering your life, the busyness, your job, the trauma, the drama, whatever it may be that's going on in your life or your kids' lives. It brings you to your knees. I know this much is true. Your eyes are going to rob you of your thunder, show you everything but you. And then it goes on. It kind of transitions as well. It also says, if you keep reading it as one sentence,
right,
show you everything but you. We're caught when our hands are off the wheel. And so, like, take your hands off the wheel is good, let God drive, or when you surrender and you take your hands off the wheel, that's when you can see yourself clearly again, kind of through God's eyes.
Yeah, I kind of take that second stanza where he says we're caught when our hands are off the wheel and our foot is on the gas as not a good thing, right? I don't think it could be an act of surrender, but I tend to read it and listen to it like we're going with velocity and not the right direction. like we have plenty of thrust. Our foot is on the gas, but our hands are off the wheel.
Totally.
And I think that means, man, danger. It's like, bro, because the very next line says, like a moth to a flame, the fire moves us. Well, that moth ain't going, to like heaven. He's going to the wrong place. And then it says, we're just waiting on the crash.
Oof.
And so this whole first couple stanzas are like, look, the pace of your life probably is too fast. Odds are you are running, you are going, you are flying through life really fast, and your hand is not correctly on the wheel. There's not an ample amount of direction and steering going on, but there's a lot of thrust. There's hurry. Even that line, your eyes are going to rob you of your thunder. Man, I think of all kinds of things. It can be greed. It can be pride. It can be lust. It could be selfishness. It could be but what you see through your eyes are going to rob you of your thunder. That's not a good thing. That's a bad thing. And they're going to show you everything but you, which is an ironic twist, right? Because without a mirror, you can't really see yourself, but you can see everything around you. So, for example, I got talked into playing on a soccer team with one of my sons, and we're playing late on Thursday nights, and I'm playing with kids who are 20, 25 years younger than me. And so I probably have no business being out there. My goal is to get through the whole season uninjured. That's actually my only real objective. I did score a goal in our first game, so I feel good about that. But there's players on the team, and on the other teams, you just hear the chatter, who believe that it is their God-given assignment to correct your soccer game, right? To tell you how to play the game. And so it's like show you everything but you. So there's a guy who has a lot to say about other people's effort and game, and he probably was party to letting 3 of the goals of get scored against us. And so I think he has a very clear perspective on what others are doing that is not entirely the best. I'm not entirely sure he has a lot of self-awareness about what he might be able to improve in his game. And that's just life, right? It's so much easier, like as a dad or as a husband, to be looking around, telling everybody around you what to do. I'm going to look at that issue, that problem, that brokenness, that mistake, and I can point all that out. Question is, can I see that in myself? Because my eyes are going to show me everything but me.
You started us off talking about music, just generally music. I think God is in music. I think he created in us, I should say, rather, the ability to hear him and receive message from him and receive comfort from him and receive inspiration from him through music. The chorus of this song is super catchy. It says, let the drum beats wash you over. Let the songs come and take you under. Like, in a way, sort of, I keep saying this word surrender. I don't know why, but it's like,
yeah.
Let the songs come and take you under. Push the life that brought you here away from you tonight. Catch that. Push the life that brought you here away from you tonight. There's a place where the pain can't touch you, and there's a fire where the heat won't burn you. It's in the sound of your voice tonight, singing in one song. Dude, I just love the chorus. Get ready and let's hear that. Let the drum beats wash you over. Let the songs come and take you under.
I think that's interesting because I love the elements like water, fire, the things that are wind, where God reveals himself to us through elements. And often, like water, right, is refreshing and nourishing, but you can also drown, right? There's water can be good or bad depending on how much of it you have, right? A gentle rain that causes your grass and flowers to grow is fantastic. A tsunami that washes your house into the ocean is not fantastic. And so water itself can have good and bad connotations. And I think fire can too, obviously, right? A fire pit, a campfire, a stove, a fire in your home on a Christmas day. Wow, that's really encouraging. And causes conversation and makes you feel warm and connected to the earth. I look at it though, where he says, and there's a fire where the heat won't burn you. And I don't know, Bear, and we haven't talked about this, and I don't know exactly what he meant by that, but the Holy Spirit is often called a flame and a fire in the scriptures. And that is a fire. That is a heat that will not burn you. It's not designed to harm you. It's designed to enable you. And I think there's an interesting dichotomy here that the song is playing with, and that is like a moth going to the flame. That's bad. But then there's a fire where the heat won't burn you. That's good. And so I think what's interesting is a lot of what this song comes down to, which is, of course, it's called the heat, so the whole name of the song has to do with something that's related to fire. And I think it's this choice we have to make as humans, as believers. Are we going to move toward the things that are good for us? Or are we going to move toward the things that are bad for us? Because really the choice is ours.
I sent the song to a buddy of mine. I texted him from Spotify, the song, and just said, hey, we're going to be talking about this on the next podcast. Give it a couple of listens. Let me know what you think. And to the point of where we are in a moment or in a season of life, God can use messages, other people, his word. And now I think even, I very much believe songs, music, to speak to us. And you may get something different, depending on who you are and where you are. I was hearing hurry of life and, like going too fast and going like a moth to the flame, like, like we were talking about kind of, burning up. Michael said it made him remember when he first accepted Jesus. He said, kind of that seesaw of life where you try to not be a bad person. You want to be a good person and rack up more good than bad. And then Jesus comes and washes that away and you are under his grace. You're completely forgiven and accepted. He says the unbeliever is like a moth drawn to the flame. And where it says, my foot is off the gas, but my hands are off the wheel. But once you let Jesus push away the life that brought you here, that's where freedom comes from. So he heard something totally that I did not. And it was probably, partly because in the times that I've been listening to it were between work meetings and we've been moving from one place to another. So a lot going on in our lives. Like we talked about, probably most people need to figure out that way to push the busyness of life away, or what you said, like get it under control. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, maybe you got to let it go. And so it's interesting to me how you can hear different things, depending on who you are and where you've been. He goes on to write, we live with the weight of what we've done, the cracks that we slip through. Not the cracks that things slip through, but the cracks that we slip through. No time to forget about our future, just the things that we won't do. Wow. Reread that. No time to forget about our future, just the things that we won't do. Like, that's a new life. No time to forget about our future. Like, don't worry about your future. It's living with, you don't have to live with the weight of the life of what we've done. We need to move without carrying with us those things that the things that we didn't do well or that we won't do. That one to me was a complicated, kind of 4-line stanza. What are you getting there?
Yeah, I think for sure the first half of the song, I think, is more clear, at least to me. Like I can kind of follow the vibe and I think I'm on track. And then I think it starts to fragment. It's kind of like this river that has a bunch of tributaries off. And I don't know which one, and absent getting Bear on here one day to explain it. And maybe it's just poetic and it's just language about the future and it's just language about knowledge and speech and power. So maybe it's more ethereal and poetic than we even could diagnose. But yeah, as the song goes on, I get a little more like, not confused, but I'm like, I would be open to lots of ways to look at the last few stanzas of this song, which is part of the reason that I think you and I both wanted to do this series on music, is because it can draw out of our families and our kids ideas and thoughts. And for all I know, you may go down a path. You may play this song for your teenage son or daughter, and they may think of something completely that the artist did not intend whatsoever. And that's ideal. That's fine. Like, the idea is not we're trying to diagnose what was in the mind of the author of the song, trying to use music as a dad to cause conversation.
Right on.
And so as you get to these last few verses, it's like the cracks that we slip through, just the things that we won't do. Is that like unfinished tasks? Is that a disappointing future? Is that a fearful future where you're like, I don't know if I'm even going to get to all this stuff? Or later it says, because I know that you'll hear the power in the way your voice can sound when there's nothing left to say. I don't even know what that means. But what I do know is I've gone to funerals where I know that what I say really doesn't matter. It's just the fact that I showed up, the fact that I was physically present. And I doubt that this last stanza is about going to a funeral, but in my head, that's kind of one idea that comes to mind, and it could create a conversation about sometimes being a friend or being a minister or being a husband or a dad is just showing up. Just physically being there with the person that you care about and love, not because you have some brilliant thing to say, but because you're just present. And then he ends by saying, I know you'll feel the way I've felt tonight without a single thing in mind. It sounds just right. I think at the end, he's just looking for words that rhyme. No, I'm just kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. Sorry, Bear, if you're out there. I definitely think that I don't understand this last stanza at all. I do think what he's echoing for sure is, he says, I know you'll feel the way I felt tonight. In the book of Ecclesiastes says that there's nothing new under the sun, that mankind has experiences that, even though they're unique to each of us, and that we have DNA and thumbprints and, hair color and eye color that make us unique in some ways, there are some things that we're going to share as humanity. What to say when you don't know what to say, or what to do with unfulfilled hopes and dreams, or what to do when you've been through spiritual battle. It says they've been through the fire of fallen angels a few verses up, and they'll never be the same. The idea that there's spiritual oppression that we're going to walk through, and as we walk through that spiritual oppression with God's help, there's an other side to that. There's an other side to that. These are common. These are things that we're all going to experience at some level. And I think that's part of why he ends it the way he ends it is, this is not a brand new idea that I've had. I think he's saying, you're going to have some of these experiences. And as a dad, I want to draw that out of my kids and have these conversations.
Mm-hmm. I think that's part of what is a good plan for, like, okay, great, you've taken this song apart. Like, what do I do with that? And I think it's just an example of, like, you and me talking and me texting Michael, like, hey, what do you get out of this song?
Yeah.
Same thing with your kids, man. It's like, just talk about it and then let it play. It'll, maybe hit repeat a time or two.
Yeah.
And they will hear things. God will speak to them through these songs. And, look, I think another practical app for why you and me talked about starting to do this is because there's some real junk out there. There's some nasty music, and there's just trash. And it's like, why don't we help prescribe what goes into the ears and the brains of our kids? And look, if this is helpful, we'd love to hear from you guys. Let's hear this last bit, and to the point of, like, where it begins with, the cracks that we slip through. No time to forget about our future, just the things that we won't do, and that's going to mean very different things to a kid versus a dad. But again, it'll give us the ability to have that conversation. Dude, his voice is just fantastic, and the drums, they are a really, really good group.
I saw them live one time in Louisville at the Palace, and it's a pretty well-known venue, for Louisville, in terms of a lot of bands have played there, and it's got good acoustics. One of the reasons they like to play there, and everybody in the balcony is really close to the stage, like the way the venue is set up, a lot of the seats are pretty close to the stage, relatively speaking, for the size of venue it is. And so he was there actually with John Foreman from the band Switchfoot, and they were doing some duets and singing together. And at one point, they took all their mics and set them aside, all their instruments and set them aside, and they just did an a cappella song with no voice amplification. And in a place that big, I mean, I don't know, hundreds of people, maybe, I don't know, probably a couple thousand that can fit in that venue. They were just magical. Like, it was beautiful, beautiful voices. And, you know, a lot of times you'll hear guys who they sound really good on stereo, on the radio, right? Because their voice has been produced and auto-tuned in the studio. And then you catch them live and you're like, yeesh, man, ow. He's got a lot of talent around him editing that voice.
But not this guy, huh? Not Need to Breathe.
No, man, Need to Breathe was pure, man. Those dudes can sing without a microphone. It's fantastic.
Oh, I love this song. I bet I've played it this week 10 times. So I hope everybody enjoyed the breakdown of The Heat, Need to Breathe. This has been, I love that we're doing this. I hope we're not the only two that are kind of enjoying this, breaking the songs thing down, the lessons and lyrics. I sure do. I sure do dig it. It's a little something different, you know, and we, as dads, we can kind of reflect on how can music play a part in the story of the building of the faith for our children and within our families. Music plays a big role in mine. And, I hope guys are encouraged to take this on. And, you know, before you plug the next song, I almost said before you plug in the next tape. Oh boy, am I dating myself.
Well played.
Before you slip that next cassette tape into the, radio. Now, before you hit play, there we go. Before you hit play next time, talk about it. You know, maybe spend a little time in prayer before you know that you're going to pick your kid up, and you know you're sitting in the car line about to pick your kid up or something, or before they get home, and you put some thought into a song. Look at the lyrics. You can go into Spotify. Most songs and Apple Music, you know, most of them show lyrics nowadays. And follow along and see what you get out of it. Make a note or two, and then use that as an opportunity to talk to your kids and have a little fun with it. You know, it doesn't have to be the most heavy duty Bible lesson. It can just be a great way to have a good conversation and see what they say. You get your kids talking sometimes, man, you can really learn a lot if you create that moment for them to talk and to get something on their mind.
And I think a subplot here is one of the things I always wanted to try to help my boys do is be a good consumer and be a good critical consumer of the information that went into their head, whether it was television, movies, songs. And there's a fine line between being a good critical consumer and being just a critic, right? Just someone who goes, well, that food wasn't very good, too much salt, that movie, film cinematography wasn't very good. And that's just being a critic. Now, fine, if that's what you're living and you get paid to be a critic, super, more power to you. But for the most part, being a critic doesn't really get you very far, you know, like other than creates a lot of enemies and makes you like the person nobody wants to be around. So I always wanted to try to walk that line between being a critical consumer, understanding the messages coming at me, coming at my family, coming at our society, without just being a critic. Right? I can always, being a critic is like infantilism, right? It's so easy to be a critic. I've often said it's way easier to be an editor than to be an author. Because an author, you got to start with a blank page, right? An editor, you just start with somebody else's words and you just criticize. So it's not bad. I wanted my kids to be good critical consumers of the information coming at them. Mm-hmm. There's so much that our culture is actively warring against, you know, the souls of humanity, like adults, children, especially children, because they're so formative, they're so able to be formed, that messages coming at our kids, like at the time of recording this show, I never watch the shows that, like the big award shows out of Hollywood. I can't imagine why somebody would, honestly. Like, no offense if that's your thing, and every year you set your watch by the Oscars or the Emmys, man. I don't understand it. But like the one of the films that won an Oscar this year is literally a film about prostitution. Like, it's the main idea behind the film, is that line of work and basically trying to make it normalized and make it a good thing. And you're like, what is happening? And so in our society, I think it's the water that we swim in can desensitize us to certain realities. And, there's this war going on, whether you know it or not, against our souls and against our children's souls. And I think music is a way that the enemy really does want to work. A lot of great, catchy tunes that have a very bad message to the lyrics and the spirit of what's behind that song. Whereas what we're trying to highlight in this brief series are songs that we hope are good double whammies. They're catchy and they're great high quality songs, but they also have a message that you can hang out with your family and discuss. So we hope that's empowering you to do that. I want to remind you as we wind down today's episode, it was brought to you by Range Leather. Don't forget, go to rangeleather.com and use the code MJ15 to get 15% off your order. The team out there in Laramie, Wyoming does an amazing job. As I've said lots of times on the show, I've been there. I've stood in the shop. It's amazing. They do such a great job. High quality handbags, Apple Watch bands, wallets, earrings, bracelets. Go shop at rangeleather.com and use the code MJ15 to get 15% off your next order. And join us next week for our third and final song that we're not going to tell you about yet. We're going to reveal that at the kickoff of next week's episode, while we'll cover our third song in this Lessons in Lyrics series. We're having a blast with you. I hope you're enjoying it. See you next week. Hey, Dad, thank you for listening to today's show. If you found this episode helpful, remember, you can get all the content and show notes at manhoodjourney.org/podcast. And if you really liked it, please consider doing 3 things. Number 1, share this podcast with someone. You can hit the share button in your app, wherever you listen to podcasts, or just call a person up and tell them to listen in.
We're sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Number 2, subscribe to this podcast so you get episodes automatically. That helps us as well to help dads find the show. You can do that through your favorite listening app, whatever that is. And finally, review this podcast. Leave us a review, good or bad, wherever you listen. Those reviews also help other dads find the show. You can always learn more about what we're up to at manhoodjourney.org or fatheronpurpose.org. We will see you next week.